20 points, 20 rebounds, and 10 assists. This rare stat line has been achieved in NBA playoff history all of 8 times. And this man right here, he's responsible for half of them. Ladies and gentlemen, the era of the Joker has officially begun. This 6'11 giant from Serbia, who is a horse racing enthusiast and treats the NBA as his side quest, is dominating the league and dog walking them to a level that we've never seen before. And I wanted to see just how impressive was his title run last season. And even though they're down to the Minnesota Timberwolves and seem unlikely to come back from it, I wanted to see how impressive would it be if he actually managed to come back and beat them and win the Larry O'Brien trophy this season. So I did just that. I compared Nikola Jokic's 2023 title run and his potential 2024 title run to legends of the past who have been there and done that. And what I found is so surprising, mind-boggling even, that it's definitely going to blow your mind. The Alpha Dogs, the franchise cornerstones, the generational talents, the players around which NBA teams and franchises are built, or in other words, the superstars. They deserve most of the credit if their team wins and most of the blame if their team loses. And in the off chance that they are able to guide their team to the NBA Finals and lift the Larry O'Brien trophy, they go into the history books as an all-time great legend. Throughout modern NBA history, dating all the way back to 1980, we've had many such legends who were able to guide their teams to the ultimate victory of an NBA championship. And more often than not, we remember them by how impressive their championship run was when they were at their best. So I wanted to put Nikola Jokic in that mix and see how impressive his championship run was last year compared to the best championship runs had by these all-time legends. I decided to evaluate the best postseasons played by these 20 all-time greats on 5 key categories to figure out which one of them had the most impressive title run in modern NBA history. The most obvious category is naturally going to be offensive production. What were their offensive contributions and how much of their team's offensive output did they carry? And if we speak about offense, we have to speak about defense as well. How much of an anchor were they to improve their team's defensive solidarity? Because this is from a player's standpoint, we also have to talk about the kind of supporting cast and help they had on their rosters. And at the same time, what kind of giants did they slay on their way to the Larry O'Brien trophy? And last but certainly not the least, how much did they dominate the statistics? What do the advanced metrics say about them? For each of these categories, I decided to rank the players from 1 to 20 and score them based on their relative rank in that category. For example, the first place finish in a category gets 20 points. Second place gets 18, third place gets 16, and so on and so forth. If a player manages to end up in the bottom half of the rankings, he gets no points for that category. In the case of a tie, I decide to split the points evenly between the tied players. At the end, I sum up the points from each category to create a final score, or the impressiveness score. The higher the impressiveness score, the more impressive the title run was for that particular player in that year. Now, for those of you who are familiar with my channel and have seen the video where I compare Michael Jordan and LeBron James on their career accomplishments, know that I'm a big fan of the game score metric. This is its formula. What I love about the game score metric is that it tries to reduce the entire box score impact of a player into a single number, and it has specific weightages for different categories. Points and steals are the most important when it comes to the game of basketball, and as such they have 100% weightage. Defensive rebounds, on the other hand, are almost expected to be grabbed by the player, and as such they only get a 30% weightage. I took components from this game score equation to create my criteria surrounding offense and defense, with the offensive production including points, total rebounds, assists and turnovers, and defensive production including steals and blocks. But in addition to their absolute production numbers on offense and defense, I also had to consider how much of their team's production were they directly responsible for. And as such, the rankings when it comes to offense and defense include not just their own absolute production, but also the percentage that they contributed when it comes to their team. The rankings on offense are pretty much what you would expect them to be. The only real surprise here is LeBron James, who ranks in the second half of this list. But then again, having nearly 4 turnovers a night and having to share the offensive court with Kyrie Irving, who happens to be a premier scorer, will do that. To literally nobody's surprise, Michael Jordan takes the top spot, having an offensive production rating of 40.3 and contributing over 30% of his team's offense. Yeah, averaging 35 a night will do that. But Nikola Jokic is not too far behind at 39.9. When it comes to offensive production and offensive contributions, Michael Jordan, Nikola Jokic, Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaq, and Giannis take the top 5 spots. On defense, however, there were actually quite a few surprises. I was surprised to find Giannis in the bottom half of this ranking, but there is an explanation to that too. You see, he was playing with Jrue Holiday and Brook Lopez, who happened to anchor the defense on the perimeter and the rim respectively. But I was surprised to see Kawhi Leonard and Kobe Bryant show up in the bottom half of this list as well. Kareem takes home the top spot with the highest production rating on defense of 3.8, deservedly scoring 20 points for this category. The criminally underrated David Robinson and Dwayne Wade both had the highest defensive production share at 29% each. And to round out the top 5, we have LeBron James and his 2016 campaign and Hakeem Olajuwon in 1995. Dirk Nowitzki, a 14-time All-Star, a winner of the NBA regular season Most Valuable Player award, a member of the 50-40-90 club, but his most memorable achievement will always be his legendary 2011 title run, when he took an old Dallas Mavericks team that were on their last legs past the Kobe Bryant Lakers all the way to the finals, where he beat the Goliath of a team that was the Miami Heat, boasting the likes of LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. Ladies and gentlemen, all rings may shine just as bright, but not all of them are created the same. Beating behemoths on your way to winning a ring while having a subpar supporting cast is just as impressive, if not more, than putting up monster numbers on offense and defense. In order to evaluate the team help and opposition, I created a metric that quantifies how strong was the superstar's own team and the strength of their opposition, for which I used the SRS score, or the simple rating system. It's a score that takes into account average point differential and strength of schedule. Basically, the higher the SRS, the stronger the team. For the team help metric, I took the superstar's own team's SRS score for that particular season. Lower the team SRS means the worse was his supporting cast, and thus more impressive the run was it for that particular superstar. As far as the opposition is concerned, I took the sum of all the opponents that they beat on their way to the title. Higher the opponent's SRS, the more impressive it is to beat them. But when we talk about team strength, we have to address a topic that has become really popular in the last 15 years of the NBA. The concept of super teams. It's almost like stacking the deck in your favor. If you load up on a lot of top level talent, you're all but guaranteed to win the championship. For example, what do Larry Bird, Stephen Curry, and Kevin Durant all have in common? It's that during their best, most impressive statistical championship runs, they did not just play with one, but two other all-star teammates. And in the case of Kevin Durant, make it 3. These are what we refer to as stacked rosters. These are what we call super teams. The 1984 Boston Celtics had 3 Hall of Fame level talents on their roster. The 2022 Golden State Warriors had 3 All-Stars. And the 2017 Golden State Warriors had 4. When you have a team that is this strong, you are expected to win the championship. Otherwise, the season is considered a failure. And as such, we have to find a way to penalize these superstars for having so much help. So we're going to be adding +1 to their team's own help metric for each all-star teammate that they had. Now, when it comes to the matter of who had the least help in their title run, there are no surprises for the most part. As expected, Kevin Durant's 2017 title run with the Golden State Warriors happens to be the most stacked roster in modern NBA history. They were the super team of all super teams. And if you've been following the NBA for quite a while, then you're not really surprised to see that Hakeem Olajuwon, Nikola Jokic, and Dirk Nowitzki had the least help from all these legends. And so rightfully, they take home the top 3 spots and the highest scores in this category. Dwayne Wade in 2006 and Kobe and Shaq with the Lakers in 2001 take the remaining top spots when it comes to who had the least help in their title runs. And the same trend continues when we look at opponent difficulty. The only real surprise here is seeing Nikola Jokic's 2023 title as being dead last in this category. He faced the easiest opponents in modern NBA history. This is primarily because of facing off against the Miami Heat, which were an 8-seeded team that somehow made their way to the finals. Hakeem Olajuwon had the toughest run of all the teams in NBA history in 1995, and he takes home the top spot, scoring a perfect 20. Shaq and Kobe in 2001, Dirk Nowitzki in 2011, LeBron's historic run in 2016, and Michael Jordan's historic run in 1993 round up the top spots. For the advanced metrics category, I wanted to select those statistics that place the most emphasis on value and impact of a player. And as such, I went ahead with the PER, which happens to reduce all of a player's contributions into a single number. The box plus minus, which tells us the net point differential that was created when the player was on versus off the court, and win shares per 48 minutes, which tells us the net win shares that are attributable to this player per 48 minutes of game time. No matter which metric you look at, whether it's the PER or the box plus minus or the win shares per 48 minutes, Nikola Jokic comes out on top in all of them. He's truly a statistical anomaly. And when we average out their scores across all these three different metrics, these are the results we get, with Nikola Jokic scoring a perfect 20 points. And Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Tim Duncan, and Kevin Durant join him in the top 5. Now that we've gone through all 5 key categories, let's combine the scores from all of them to create our final impressiveness score and see who really had the most impressive championship in modern NBA history. At 4th position, we have Michael Jordan's historic 1993 title run, scoring him a total of 50 out of 100. He places top 3 in 2 different categories, being the offensive rank as well as advanced statistics, all while boasting the number 1 offense out of all these legends. At 3rd place finish, we have a tie between Shaq's 2001 title run as well as LeBron's 2016 campaign, both scoring an even 52 out of a total of 100. At 2nd position, we have the current NBA champion and reigning finals MVP Nikola Jokic, who places top 3 in 3 different categories, being offensive rank, lack of help, as well as advanced statistics, scoring him a total of 56 out of 100. And at 1st position, we have Hakeem Olajuwon's legendary 1995 title run, where he placed top 3 in 3 different categories, being offensive rank, lack of help, and opposition, scoring a whopping 68 points out of 100. Ladies and gentlemen, the dream was real. In fact, Hakeem's 1995 title run is so legendary that he took a 6-seeded Houston Rockets lineup, past the 3rd-seeded Jazz, who had future MVP in Karl Malone, who he beat in 5 games, then past the 2nd-seeded Phoenix Suns, who had former MVP Charles Barkley, who he beat in 7 games, then past the San Antonio Spurs, who were the 1st seed in the West, with current MVP David Robinson, who he beat in 6 games, all the way to the finals, where he matched up against an Orlando Magic team that was 1st seed in the East and having future MVP in Shaq, who he swept, while having a lackluster team where his second best option was a 33-year-old Clyde Drexler who was way past his prime. Hakeem Olajuwon literally beat every other big man in the league on his way to the title. And you might be thinking, well, what about Patrick Ewing? He beat him in the finals the year before. Hakeem was the real deal, and he deserves every bit of respect that comes with his name, the Dream. In fact, he was so good that players like Dwight Howard, LeBron James, and Kobe Bryant approached him for special lessons to learn post moves. He was so good that the Defensive Player of the Year award is now named after him. And he not only leads the league when it comes to all-time blocks, but is also top 10 all-time in steals as a big man. And he was so good that Michael Jordan lists him as his starting center in his all-time starting 5. But perhaps the biggest proof of his greatness is that he was selected 1st overall in the 1984 draft, a draft class that included Michael Jordan himself. And till this day, nobody considers that to be a mistake. When we talk about the greatest or the best big man in NBA history, and there have been many of them, we might say Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Bill Russell by way of career accomplishments. Or we might say Wilt Chamberlain or Shaq because they dominated the game at a level that's never been seen before. But Hakeem is right up there with the best of the best. And in my opinion, he is the best. Because he was capable of not only standing toe-to-toe with any other big man on any given night, but he was more than capable of beating them too. And we don't need to speculate because he actually did that. But I want to bring your attention to this man right here. Guys, Nikola Jokic has just entered his prime, and he already has the 2nd most impressive championship under his belt. And we may just be in the middle of history being rewritten. In this year's playoffs, Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets Gentlemen swept the LA Lakers and are currently facing off against Minnesota Timberwolves and Anthony Edwards. Now I know that they're down 2-0 in this series, but what if they come back to win it? And then go on to face the Oklahoma City Thunder and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the Western Conference Finals. And let's say they manage to beat them too, only to then face and then beat the Boston Celtics in the finals. In the off chance that this were to happen, then our list of most impressive title runs in modern NBA history would go from being this to this. And that would change a lot, folks. Nikola Jokic would be tied for having the most impressive title run in modern NBA history, alongside Hakeem Olajuwon. And at that point, we have to seriously talk about his position in the all-time rankings. And he would genuinely merit a spot in the top 10 greatest basketball players in NBA history. This year's playoffs could mark the most pivotal moment in the legacy of the Joker, if he manages to win the championship. But even if he doesn't, he has plenty of years left in his prime to do just that. And in either case, there are plenty of sharks lurking just around the corner. One thing I can say for sure is this. Unfortunately, LeBron, Steph and KD's era has officially come to a close. But it's a time for excitement rather than mourning, because the NBA is in more than capable hands. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you during next time's upload. God bless you all.